Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 234 of the Nope Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg. Transform self-doubt into self-trust. I'm welcoming back Gloria Eid, and I'm fascinated by this topic because your bio literally has that as a line, which caught my attention because I was like, how often do we doubt ourselves? It's like, oh, I've never done this before. And when we think about it, of course we've never done it before because we haven't done it until we've done it, and then we've done it. So it's like you don't know how you'll do it until you've done it, and then you'll wonder how you did it. Like we don't say to little kids, oh, you've never walked before, so you're never going to do that. Or teenagers, you've never driven before, so like don't bother. Yeah. But somehow as an adult, like we have this, well, maybe it's just me, but like freezing, crippling anxiety, self-doubt, fear that stops us from even starting. So I'm really keen to chat about this with you today.
Me too. It's such a juicy topic. And I think also what's key is like the transform part. So it's not to say that the work is to get rid of it entirely. I think honestly, as adults, the more that we grow, the more fixed we can get. Not to say that we can't change, but at least for myself, I find that I often have to pull up that younger version of me that was more just she didn't see the risks so much, or she at least prioritized like the adventure and the journey and the experience and the newness of something and like the excitement of that versus the fear of it and the trepidation of it, which it almost becomes the default mode. The older you get, it's like I don't know, sometimes I find with myself or with my clients, it's like we should know this by now, even if, like you said, we haven't done something like this before. It's like somehow along the way our thinking process is like, well, we should just know how.
And also the fear of repercussions or consequences stops you from even starting. Like sometimes there are times to be safely minded, like wear your seatbelt and drive under the speed limit and check your mirrors and all that kind of thing, of course. But some of the things that we think could be disaster worthy, like, launching something and nobody signs up, in the scheme of things, it's like, is it that big of a deal? Like by putting it out there and having nobody sign up, at least you have the feedback. Well, what is it about it? Did people see it? Like, are your links actually working? Very recently, I put something out and I was like, nobody clicked on it. That is so weird. Anyway, it wasn't until I was thinking, I'll deal with this when I get back from school drop off. Took the kids to school, come back, had an email from someone saying, tried to do your thing, but the link didn't work. And I was like, haha. So sometimes it can be that simple, or sometimes it can be like people are confused. What sounds clear in my head and makes total sense to me because I've been ruminating on this for months. And then I blurt it out and someone's like, what are you even talking about? So I think getting the feedback. But the other thing I was going to say is when COVID lockdowns were happening and I had my young kids at home, they had this bright idea because all the parks were closed. Even if you're allowed to leave the house, the parks were roped off here in Sydney. They wanted to make a toboggan, like a slide down the staircase with a box. And my daughter's like, do you think this is safe? Like, do you think we'll hurt ourselves? And I was like, I don't know. Like, that was my true answer. And she was like, And she looked at her brother and she's like, Casimir, you go first. But some of that childlike wonder of like, and then looking at, what the thing is this, what's the worst that could happen? Nobody buys it. I feel a bit embarrassed. Yeah, kind of my ego might be bruised, but versus maybe I might break my leg tobogganing down the staircase and then we need to go to the hospital. I might need to rethink this. So
Yes, and we can conflate the two without actually doing the work to parse them out. That worst case scenario thinking is real, but also bringing it to the end as a thought experiment, like you're suggesting, which is, okay, really, what is the worst that can happen? Nobody signs up. Okay, and then what? If it's that you feel like a failure, we can work on that. Right? Is it that you will never be able to try again? No, that's not true. Yeah. So there is that process of transforming the doubt into something that you can trust in about yourself to keep moving forward in the face of any potential unideal circumstances.
I love how you say transform. Hang on, I'm just going to pause us for a moment.
Okay.
Just had a slight tech issue, but we're back because I don't edit things, and in life things like this happen and we just keep rolling.
Perfect timing.
I loved how you spoke about transforming, so not getting rid of, but because self-doubt is going to happen at every stage, at every level. There's going to be a new, what's that saying, new level, new devil, like
Totally.
and it's like, it's kind of it's a healthy thing to have, because if you don't have doubt, then you do stupid things like touch the stove or burn yourself or cut yourself, or like that fearful moment is a healthy thing. It's just, is it showing up in the right place? And does it have something to say? Like, as you said, what's the worst that could happen? Nobody could sign up. Like, we can work with that. You said that. It's like, we can work with that. But what is the worst that could happen? Like I'm literally putting myself in an unsafe situation. Well, might be something that we need to rethink. So transforming is in like pausing and working through, rather than paralyzing or hoping for the day where we're never going to have any doubt. Because I don't know if anyone's had that. Send me an email. I need to have you on the show and tell me all about it, because I have self-doubt on the regular.
And you want to know why? Probably because you do a lot of creative new things a lot. And that's where I've come to kind of see how self-doubt is, it's not something that I need to avoid or try to run from, or to, encourage clients or the people that I work with to not have. I actually see it as, wow, you're in the face of self-doubt. You must be doing something that matters.
Yes. What a reframe. If the doubt's coming up, it's like a good thing. It's a sign you're doing something matters. Because like, I'm thinking on a regular day, if I'm taking my kids to school or I'm making dinner or, run-of-the-mill things, I don't have any crippling self-doubt, but I'm also not experiencing anything new and exciting where it's like, let's try a new recipe. I've got to source this ingredient. I hope it doesn't burn, or whatever. That's when, the thoughts are happening, but also we're trying something here.
Yeah.
So what about the other side of the coin? Like, because what we're transforming into self-trust, how do you help people, suggest people start to foster that? Because I think a lot of us don't have self-trust, which is why we're forever reading books or listening to podcasts or looking for someone else who has, the magic beans.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the ultimate question. It's a practice of listening, is how I've come to experience it. A practice of listening and being in intentional moments of presence. So that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but anything that can help slow you down and begin to discern what is the fear, what might be beneath the fear, or what's the wisdom that the doubt or the fear has for me. What, even just looking at our values and what's important to us in the way that we live our lives and how we make decisions, and bringing them into our experience or into our situation, and letting that be a guidepost for how to move forward and what to trust in. I think sometimes by default, we can be a lot more loyal to our fears than to our dreams, to our visions, to a future that we want to create, to the ideal version of us that we want to be. And so the focus on developing self-trust is really to practice the muscle more of prioritizing the vision, the dream, the ideal self, what it is that we're becoming, more than the thing that we're trying to avoid.
I love that. I really love that, because how many times are we more loyal to our fears? And what you focus on, you create. So if you're always focusing on, this is never going to work, things just don't work out for me, I'm just not one of these successful people, and so on and so forth, we get to be right, but we don't actually get where we're desiring to go.
Totally. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, and just to reiterate that, really is like, we we do have choice, and whatever it is we say, it is, like you said, it's like, okay, like, yes, we're right in that respect, but do we want to be right about something else too? And what could that thing be instead?
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things I do personally when I notice, the doubts or the fears or the uncertainty arise, it's just kind of like I say to myself, sometimes out loud, I'm a bit weird like that, but I'll be like, noted. I could put this thing out there and somebody could tell me that I've offended them, or my spelling's wrong, or my grammar's poor, or I swear too much, or whatever. Like, noted. It's like, thank you for bringing that to my attention. What else could happen? Like, what else is possible? It's like, oh, this could be the thing that somebody just needs to read or hear today. Like,
So
this
good.
could be the message that somebody comes across and it's like, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. That's just as available to me. And I love how you brought the option to choice. I can choose. Do I want to keep thinking that I'm the worst and I suck and whatever? Or do I want to think, I get to do I always do my best, and my best gets to get better.
So powerful. And even that, like, giving yourself the moment it's kind of what I'm speaking to, as well as an example of like that presence and of that listening. It doesn't have to take much, but just creating that gap between our original thought, or the thing that is keeping us on that wheel, and okay, what's going to be my thing to help shift me? Like, as you said, noted. For me, it's interesting point of view.
I like that.
When I hear myself say something, or when I catch myself being judgy or something to someone, I'm like, interesting point of view, Gloria. Okay, what else?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because sometimes, when you post things on social media, or when you share, like, everyone's going to have opinions, and not everyone's going to agree with you or universally like you, which, hurts in the moment. But the other day I commented on something and I said, thanks for your input, because it was totally disregarding and disagreeing with what I said, but, their opinion's valid. One of my friends screenshotted it and is like, is this your way of having a polite fuck you? It's like, thanks for your input. So you could say that too, like, to a version of you that's doubting or critical or, overly judgmental. It's like, thanks for your input. Or, as you said, that's a curious point of view, or, giving it airtime and space, but also not unpacking and marrying it.
Totally. Yeah, exactly that.
So for the listeners, just before we wrap up, if anyone's listening to this and they're like, really are stuck in that self-doubt moment, and they're like, yeah, this sounds great, Gloria and Suzanne, I'd love this, but where would you recommend they start? Because, this is a journey, hence transform. It's not like, because sometimes we understand something intellectually, but then we've been wired, or our patterns have gone so long in this other way, that first step can often be the hardest. What would you recommend for people who may be feeling that?
Yeah. My go-to, because it's been a very powerful practice for me, is journaling. I mean, I'm a writer.
As we know, check the last episode, grab Gloria's book. It's fabulous.
Yes, thank you. So I think that there's a lot of like self-coaching that can take place on the page, or even just processing, seeing patterns, laying it out. And there's something about taking things out of our head and putting it on paper that kind of neutralizes what feels really strong for us. So that's like a go-to if I've got no other resources and I've got no other person, or I just got to get through something, or to feel lighter in some way, I'll take out my journal and I'll write free. Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful, stream of consciousness, because, as you said, you didn't say this explicitly, and I'll bring this to a close with this thought for everyone. When it's in our head, it's unexamined. We just think about it. When we write it out on the page and you see it written down, then you can be like, oh my goodness, like, would I say this to anyone else? Like, do I really think this? And then from there, you can sweep it up like you would any other cobweb.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me once again, Gloria. Can you let the listeners know what you do and where they can find you?
Yes, I am a life and leadership coach and grief guide, specifically working with people through transitions of all kinds, helping them access their creativity so that they can be the person that they need to be to do the work that they are here to do. And you can find me at Gloria Eid, GLORIAEID.com.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope to catch you on the next one. Bye for now.